But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
This is HBR News number 241. Amber Heard admitting to abusing Johnny Depp. Weinstein updates. Make space for women, where we reflect on the stories of the week and give it the Badger treatment. I didn't mean for the Weinstein update and make space for women to sound like they're part of the same statement. They're actually separate stories. It's not a Weinstein joke. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. I hope you guys are doing well this week and you have that you are just going to laugh at all the absurdity rather than allow yourself to be consumed by it, like staring into the face of an elder god. Oh wait, we're not allowed to do that anymore because apparently going insane from Lovecraftian beasts is bigoted and ableist somehow. So and insensitive. So I am your host, Brian, and I'm joined by, as always, my austere patriarchs and our handmaiden, Hannah, and Mike, and Dr. Ranimer Cam. We have a great show.
You will be eaten last, Brian. You will be eaten last, everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, none of that's going to stop me from playing Call of Cthulhu.
Well, I mean, just don't buy the Fate version, and you'll be good. And I think that's it. Just don't support them. So we have a great show lined up for you guys today, so please be sure to continue the conversations both in the chat as well as the comment section. On this week's HBR News Show, we're going to be talking about the news of the week, which includes a new bit of evidence that you may have already seen, but we haven't given it our light touch regarding the Johnny Depp Amber Heard saga that revolves around divorce and violence and abuse and accusations. And and of course, this is a story that we've been talking about longer than most, who's been following it since the beginning. There is also a testimony from one of Harvey Weinstein's accusers regarding his privates, a couple of new woke hashtags that were making the rounds since the Super Bowl this weekend, and a new piece of software that searches through your social media for problematic trends so that potential employers can decide whether or not to hire you, and more. So stick around, it's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only after show. So I learned about this website. It's called madamenoir.com, and it's basically a womanist website, or as you may also know it as a black feminist website. In the 60s, the black feminists called themselves womanists, and the womanists have websites too. So this one is called madamenoir.com, and here is an opinion piece by one Ara. Oh my God, Iloa Buging Ukuwu that proposes a solution to parents who want to keep their daughters safe and secure. And what is that, you might ask? Well, it is, of course, to raise better sons in order to protect your daughters. So, yeah, of course. What could she mean specifically, though? What is there more to the story? Well, we're going to find out by going into the after show. Of course, if you want to participate in our after shows, either as an audience member or a participant, please consider becoming a Badger yourself by going to www.feedthebadger.com for a monthly subscription. Do people still say www when they start a website, or am I just doing some boomer shit right now? I don't think people even do that anymore. It's just feedthebadger.com. I don't think the www is necessary. So just go to feedthebadger.com, set up a monthly subscription. It'll get you into the Discord where you'll be able to watch the additional content. You'll also be able to hang out with the community there. $5 a month, the price of a cup of coffee if you're the kind of person that goes to places where they charge $5 for a cup of coffee. It's not bad at all. So, and if you don't want to wake up one morning to find yourself unable to find our content because YouTube finally dropped the axe on our channels, then go to badgerfeed.com. That's badgerfeed.com, where all of our content lives when the other social media spaces try to kill it. So before we get into the stories, I'm going to ask you guys if you guys could please hit that like button for us right off the bat so that we can get more people possibly sucked into the vortex of reason and sanity and evidence that we have. So basically pull them out, draw them back, tell them to come to the light by hitting the like button. All right. So now we're going to get into the stories. First up, let me just organize my shit a little bit here. I apologize for that. All right, so the Super Bowl happened this weekend, and it brought out the cringe. It brought out the cringe, I'm sorry. And they brought out the cringe, along with kneeling bald eagles for PETA. That's the animal rights organization. Drag queens eating hummus for Sabra. I don't even know what that is, but that's not really the focus of the story. I think Sabra's like a hummus? Drag queens for hummus. I don't know. It's weird. But Procter...
Yeah, Sabra is a hummus. It's
one of the better brands of hummus.
Again, I don't have a problem with drag queens advertising hummus. I find this to be not at all offensive, just really weird during the Super Bowl. I think it's really weird during the Super Bowl. But Procter & Gamble is back at it again. Okay, so first, the secret deodorant ad, which came with its own Twitter virtue signaling. It's called, there's all these, people are using hashtags to advertise products now. It's like woke marketing, and it's super effective. It just shows how funny, how dumb people can be when they allow corporations to tell them what products they should be buying by using virtue signaling to sell products, which is kind of a genius move when you think about it.
Does that say kick in equality?
Kick inequality.
Kick in equality.
Yes,
like,
it does.
when you kick something in, you destroy it with your foot. Good thinking, guys. How many figures did you pay for that marketing?
It sounds
At
like
least 4.
they're mixing their metaphors, but
Mm-hmm. Oh, but they also have another one.
Equality is a field goal now.
Yeah, it is. It is. If you guys haven't seen this ad, by the way, and again, this is like, I mean, this is obviously bad virtue signaling and all, but if you haven't seen this ad, it basically shows a football game and the players are all wearing helmets and you can't tell what gender they are, but you assume they're men because they're playing football in front of a huge audience, and people are watching, and then they score the winning goal or whatever, and people, whatever the blurns, and then like everyone stands up and cheers, and then they remove their helmets and do the thing where, whenever a woman takes off a helmet or something in a movie, they have to whip their hair, and it's like, oh, it's a woman under there, and everyone's jaw drops like they couldn't believe it. And then it sinks in that it's a woman playing, and they really start to cheer. And that's when it says, let's kick inequality, with a Michael Bay, low camera rotation. And I watched it. It was so funny to me. It was so funny.
There have been girl football players for like over 30 years.
Oh, this is a brand new thing, Hannah. It has never been done before.
No, it's never been done.
My dad had a student that played until she got her collarbone not just broken, but disconnected in a game, and that was it. That was it. She couldn't play anymore. Men's bones are denser than women's bones. Mm-hmm. Once you start getting older and going through puberty, it's a lot harder for a girl to play with the boys unless she is unusually dense. Not in the bad way, but I have photographed girl kickers. I have photographed girls on the offense team for years, and it's silly to act like that's something new. And then there have been all girl teams. There are quote unquote powder puff teams that are flag football, and then there are powder puff teams that are not flag football that tackle each other and everything. This is not anything new. They're not doing anything special. Plus, also, they only get one virtue signaling point for a title that references the field goal. They suck.
Yeah. I think that what they're trying to say with this, and this isn't even really the purpose of this story, it's just something else we have that Lindsay found while she was looking up, preparing to do this write-up. I don't have a problem with women playing football. Obviously, I don't give a shit. But I think what this ad is trying to say is that, for whatever reason, we should be watching women play football with the same enthusiasm that we watch the Super Bowl. Because remember, it's an advertisement that's taking place during the Super Bowl. And the weird thing about it is essentially it's presenting a fantasy, because this doesn't exist.
Right.
And it's also like, it's presenting a fantasy during a real football game, and it's supposed to appeal to women. And so I can't think of anything. Well, I can, but it seems to me that it's so, what's the word? Condescending.
It's condescending and lecturing.
Yeah, it's condescending to the women that might be sitting with their husbands watching the game. Because if a woman is sitting in the living room watching the Super Bowl with her husband, she's clearly okay with watching a football game that has all men in it. But it's either that, or it's like it's trying to speak something to the men that are watching the Super Bowl that otherwise wouldn't watch a football game featuring women. And the fact is, to your point, Hannah, and I'm sorry that this is a bit of a tangent because I didn't intend to talk about this particular commercial.
Sorry,
because
it just pissed me off.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Because women are different than men, their performance at football is going to be different than men's. And so, therefore, an all-female football game just isn't going to be as exciting as an all-male one. It's just not, because they're not going to be. Yeah.
The thing is, we don't know, because women don't go out for football in the numbers it would take to get us to a point where that would happen.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're not going to, because it's a contact sport. And again, men's bones are denser than women's bones. Men handle those hits because their bodies evolved to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And ours didn't. It's just the way it is.
Oh, Lindsay,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Lindsay's telling me there's more to it, so I should keep going.
Well,
this gets better.
I mean, we probably will have to, but on the topic of the women watching football with their guys, women who like to sit and watch football, they're the ones that feminists hate, right? They call us the cool girls, and we don't always all know all of the ins and outs of the game. Like, we're not necessarily all as obsessive about learning every detail of the history and all that stuff. Some of us just like to watch the competition and everything. And my favorite thing is, of course, watching it through a camera down on the field. But the gals that will sit with a group of guys and watch football and cheer and boo and eat unhealthy snacks and all that kind of stuff, they have that label. Like cool girl is actually an insult. Cool is an insult.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not just lecturing, they're shaming. They're not just condescending, they're shaming. You should be out here. You should be supporting this. This is what you belong to. And you belong to feminism. That is territorial. And it's not just trying to be persuasive. They hate us. They absolutely, positively, vehemently, brain-burningly hate us. Like they'll actually, hell, a movie about that chick that faked her death that we looked at on the Nerdcast that a while back. Shoot, I can't think of the name of it. She had a whole big thing about the cool girl and how terrible, and feminists were like, just fist bumping and all that kind of stuff over it. And the movie was a portrayal of a sociopath who was manipulating, or even a psychopath who was manipulating the people around her to do harm and to get everything she wanted. And it was that character that had the rant about the cool girl that likes football and enjoys masculine activities and isn't uptight about dirty jokes in her presence and stuff like that. And it's fun to be around and everything. And she basically lamented that women who don't hate men and don't look down on men and don't treat men like an enemy are a betrayal to the rest of the female sex.
Yeah, and women who try to get along with men are just trying to be the cool girl.
Right. So that was I bet every woman out there that likes to watch football, that was actually sitting with a group of people watching the Super Bowl, wasn't, hiding in the kitchen being a football widow. They were probably all sitting there cringing and face palming.
Hopefully laughing. hopefully just laughing at it, because I mean, if you would like allow this to like send feel good vibes through your body, you're just kind. I mean, that's just kind of sad. Like this is only for you so long as you buy Secret. By the way, Procter and Gamble, same people who gave us the Gillette ad, just pointing that out.
Is woke the new cool? Because for a long time, kids were like, "You got to be cool. You just got to be laid back and shit." But now I think being woke is more important than being cool.
Oh, I think
you can't just be laid back. You've got everything is racist, everything is sexist. You got to point it all out.
I think that's what advertisers think is the new cool.
Well, and the people they're pandering to, blue check marks and the followers and college students that.
But if anything, the newer generation, the Gen Zers, the Zoomers, I see them using woke more as an insult than anything else.
Oh, absolutely. Well, they're using it to point out what it is that they're talking about. It's like the woke is on the other end of being like red pill, for example, or based. Some people will call.
Yeah,
but let me get through.
It seems to have gone from meaning aware of what's going on around you, which it started out as, to meaning social justice warrior that's over the top.
Yeah. Well, that's how that's how we identify them. Okay, so moving on with the rest, because there's more to this specific hashtag. Let's kick in equality. The commercial shows shocked fans as the winning game kicker is revealed to be a woman. The commercial also has been accompanied by ads in print, including this one. Hey, Bucks fans, do you sweat 34-yarders? Carly Lloyd doesn't. Secret believes strength is more than overcoming what makes us sweat. It's continuing to pursue progress and equality, buzzword, in all industries and sectors. Women may not play professional football yet, but isn't it time for a level playing field wherever she wants to play?
Now, I have it on good authority that horses sweat. And men perspire and ladies just glow. So what's all this about?
Another P&G product line, Olay. So Olay is in oil of Olay. They make soap and oils and stuff. Marketed in the Super Bowl, starred, quote, bisexual late night talk show host Lily Singh, Busy Phillips, along with an actual astronaut, Nicole Stott. It pushed STEM education for women, asking, quote, is there enough space in space for women? End quote. And promoted hashtag Make Space for Women on Twitter with a fundraiser for girls who code. So they were, look, again, if you want to do a fundraiser for that stuff, I don't have a problem with that. Let's go to this. Here are the hashtags. Essentially, what Olay is doing is that every retweet, they'll give $1, I think it was, to some charity organization, and this
saw
was
this commercial.
Yeah, this was going on, but there's more to it. That I thought this was kind of an interesting weekend, because you had the Make Space for Women. You also had the football one, Kick In Equality, right? And there was, I believe, that was another one too. All Strength No Sweat. These were all like pro women, women power hashtags. And then around the same time, another hashtag appeared. It was called hashtag Men Are Not Very Good At. And then people were supposed to complete the phrase. So I will show some of that. This is one of the big ones. Hashtag Men Are Not Very Good At Talking About Their Feelings. The biggest killer of our young men is suicide. Let's stop telling our men to man up. And then she cited some statistics. Of course, this falls in the lap of men to start talking about their feelings, because toxic masculinity.
Let's see if that has any connection with suicide. A man can be very upfront with his feelings and still somehow become suicidal. Did you know that?
Yeah, it's almost
especially
like
after
there's
he
no
gets
connection.
Answered by a feminist.
Mm-hmm. As Richard would say, "Come on my timeline." So then we got, but here's the good thing though. On the bright side, once the Men Are Not Very Good At hashtag went out, there was a lot of pushback from people who basically started making counter arguments. So I think it seems to me that a good chunk of Twitter is pretty much sick and tired of the man bashing. So somebody said, men are not very, this is actually, I think, a worthwhile criticism, though. Men are not very good at holding women accountable for their hypocrisy. And then there was like a Cosmo thing. It says, confirm men who objectify women are effing horrible, but then it also objectifies men. 36 Summer Olympic bulges that deserve gold trophies. Then you have men are not very good at being heard when they say that their partner is abusive. And with a clip of Johnny Depp, which we'll get into a little bit later. So that was.
By the way, I don't think it does objectify men to talk about their packages in that way, because, well, they're more attractive than dildos, aren't they? If the whole point is one of those things on a man is more attractive than one of those things on its own, then you're not objectifying them. You're subjectifying the object between their legs. Just like men subjectify women who they find attractive because of the mutual mechanical feeling that will take. Oh, we've gone through this so many fucking times.
No, I understand what you're saying. I actually don't like the term objectify in the way that it's often used with
Feminists
women.
Misuse it anyway.
Yeah, they misuse it with regards to women. So when, like, I think to try to your point, if it's wrong when they use it to describe how men subjectify women when they tell us what they're attracted to, what they like about them, then it must be wrong when women do it to men too. It's just a wrong usage of the term. It's not necessarily wrong to do that. So
yeah, if you were really objectifying someone, you would treat them like a toaster or a baseball.
Or a dildo.
Or a wallet.
A wallet.
Or a wallet.
Yeah. Men do get objectified.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it certainly does. So
treat them like a kitchen table.
Yeah.
You just come in from work and put all your stuff on them.
So, yeah, that was basically the first story. I did get a super chat, but I'll look at it later. But essentially, we're looking at a bunch of pro-women hashtags. I thought this was, it's not a big thing. It's not like a big thing, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention so you can see like the contrast. You had a bunch of pro-woman girl power stuff. Let's get women to be astronauts. Let's get women to play football. Let's, whatever, send them to the moon. Personally, I don't care, whatever. But it does. But when you contrast that with a couple of things, number one, that there was this kind of anti-male hashtag that started to go out, and it was a good thing that a lot of people were expressing that they didn't like that, but also the fact that it was Procter & Gamble that put out two of the wokest advertisements, and they were also the ones that simultaneously essentially did that toxic masculinity ad when the Gillette ad came out. Just goes to show that they haven't learned anything. So it's good for you guys to know this. And also, I want to take this opportunity to point out something else, something I forgot to mention. Someone sent me an ad. I'm going to see if I can find it. Hold on a second. Somebody sent me an ad where it was a Domino's pizza ad from India. And here it is. I'm just going to move this over here. I'll show you guys. It's 20 seconds long. It's very short. And they thought that it was misandric and gynocentric. And I want to tell you guys what I think, but I will watch it first and you guys tell me. So here we go. I'm going to play it really quick.
Babe, pizza order kar.
किस खुशी में?
I dumped him. I dumped him.
Domino's everyday value starting at just ₹99. Ab jab dil bole, Domino's.
Okay. No, the accent's funny. I don't see how that's a misandric ad. I don't see the problem with that.
I just don't get it overall.
Well, but okay, so in case you couldn't read the subtitles, there's a girl in her room. She's drawing a picture. I guess she's like a teenager or something, and her friend or sister or something, another woman comes in and tells her, "Oh, I broke up with him. Let's order a pizza." And they do the scream, and then they order a pizza, and then the guy comes and tells you what the deal is. I don't see how that's misandric. I'm sorry. Look, maybe there's a story that I don't know about. I just want to clear this up. I may not have all the context, but I'm not in the business of looking for reasons to be upset about advertising. So I don't think that this is a problem. A girl dumping a guy without any context doesn't tell me anything except that she doesn't want to be with him anymore. That's not, in my opinion, that's not misandric. That's not even woke. I mean, would you be able to do the reverse without trouble? I guess probably that might be a problem. But I think
I got it, Brian. I got it, Brian.
Okay.
He preferred Pizza Hut.
Oh, that well, isn't that more anti-Pizza Hut than anything else? But like or he never allowed her to eat pizza. He was like controlling her appetite all the time or something. Like if you showed me more, then I could probably like get behind it to some degree. But I'm not in the business of looking for reasons to be offended at a pizza ad where a girl dumps a guy, talks to her friend, and they decide to celebrate. I just
there would have to be some kind of background information. I mean, I know Indian culture is different than American culture, so there may be some reason why it's remarkable that she dumped him.
Yeah,
but
perhaps.
Unless that reason that she's remarkable, that it's remarkable that she dumped him, or that it's presumed remarkable that she dumped him, if that reason is misandric, then maybe. But the commercial's so short, it's hard to get any information from it at all. And that kind of behavior is pretty normal. And it could have been done just the opposite sexes, and it would have been just as mysterious. And, it's a slice of life. It's not necessarily.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
It's not sexist.
Well, maybe you guys can explain. So make your case in the comments. But my central point of this is we can look at advertising that's woke or anti-male and just sort of point out that that's what's happening. And then maybe you can decide if you want to, whether you want to boycott, whether you want to discuss it, or even if you disagree. Because we always have to be aware that maybe, we're taking things a little bit too seriously. I'm not in the business of being as sensitive as the feminists that get upset about like what was the protein ad? It was like the are you Beachbody ready? That one.
Oh yeah.
I'm not in the business of getting as offended.
So mad about
I know, and I'm look, I'm not trying to do that. I'm sorry. I would prefer that we were all more resilient than just like more sensitive for the sake of it or to try to point out hypocrisy. The fact is that's not going to end, and the genders are different. So whatever. I don't think that I'm just saying, I don't think that the Domino's ad is offensive. I would need more context. Maybe you guys can explain it. Even if there's like some subtle stuff that's going on, you can tell me. But I don't think it's enough to get the amount of outrage that I saw on Twitter. So
it's been a staple of advertising in all media for decades now to present the man, particularly the husband, as a bumbling idiot, and the wife as a long-suffering goddess.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for an advert to call misandric, this ain't it, Chief.
Yeah.
Well, and if we're gonna have the complaint that women complain that there are no good men out there, and then when they meet a good guy, instead of dating him, they go date some asshole who's exciting, then you can't complain when one figures out she's dating an asshole and dumps him. And is excited about the fact that she figured out the guy was an asshole and dumped him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this ad looks like, is somebody that figured out they're dating the person that treats you like you're lucky to be with them when you're really not. And that comes in both sexes. And getting excited about figuring that out as a teenager and being the person who does the dumping.
Yeah.
Hey, that's not sexist.
Yeah.
That's pretty normal teenage experiences. And you move on. You get excited about it. You celebrate. I learned something. I'm not going to make this mistake again. And I'm good enough to date somebody who doesn't treat me like that. And then you move on and you do a better job of picking out people to date. That's it.
Yep.
It's not sexist.
So like let's just, and look, a last thing and then I'm moving on. It may be true that if the genders were reversed, that feminists would be really upset. But I don't care what upsets them, because I have my own standards, right? We don't have to use that as the bar by which we measure our own reactions to stuff. We have to try to remain objective and rational, and don't allow yourself to get trapped in that cycle of hysteria that they create for themselves. Because the fact is, if we tried to go by social justice warrior standards of what you can find offensive, these shows would be like 6 hours long, because we'd just be looking for shit to be mad at. So I don't want to do that. I want to be the opposite of that. Okay, so I'm going to read the super chats. We're going to move on to the real stories. This took like a half hour, but Cute Brother Soulstar gives us $2 and says, "This is literally the Lisa Simpson football joke." Oh yeah, you're right. That's funny. Dragon Noodle Soup Gaming gives us $5 and says, "I tried to send $25 to Hannah for the last stream, but I don't know if it went through." Allison would know. I can't look at it. I think it did though. So I want to say thank you in advance. I think it did, because we definitely met our goals. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Darth Sonic 413 gives us $4.99 and says, "Domino's makes really good, especially their buffalo wings. Their pizza sucks though." Wait, do you mean pizza is their main thing? What do you mean pizza is their main thing? Yeah, thank you for that. I prefer of the big chains, not of like just pizza in general, because come on, I live in Chicago. I prefer Little Caesars. Darth Sonic 413 gives us $1.99 and says, "Good food, not good." Oh, thanks for the correction. I figured that's what you meant. And then Albert Nada 2 Retro says, for $5 Canadian, "I think they find the overwhelmingly joy at having dumped their ex-misandrist." Oh, I think they find the joy at having dumped their ex-misandrist. I could see some women being offended the other way. I'm not this case. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I get it, but again, I'm just asking that, be offended if you want to, but I'm personally, it's just, I'm not going to see it that way. So, all right. Moving on to the next story. We're going to talk about Johnny Depp. So I'm going to hand it over to Mike J. And yeah, take it away, sir.
So, on the heels of Johnny Depp's $50 million defamation lawsuit against ex-wife Amber Heard, a 2015 audio confession has surfaced where Heard admits to multiple instances of abuse and domestic violence. Heard was recorded saying things such as, quote, "I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. I was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched." Quote, "I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you." And, quote, "You are such a baby. Grow the fuck up, Johnny." End quote. Heard also complains about Depp leaving during her abuse and admitting to throwing pots and pans at him. This all follows Heard's Washington Post op-ed alleging abuse at the hands of Depp, allegations that cost Depp several roles, including his role in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise.
Okay, before we comment on this story, I want to play about a minute-long clip of the audio that was recorded, in case you guys haven't heard it yet. This is just like a short clip. It might be a best of. I found it on Imgur, so it probably is.
Please, Brian, it's greatest hits.
Greatest hits. Yeah, what did I say? Well, whatever. I'll go ahead and play it.
Sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You've been a lot of fights, been around a long time. I know. Yeah.
No, when you have a closed fist.
You get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not deck you. I was hitting you.
You can't
I don't know
deck
what
me.
the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are your toes?
What am I supposed to do? Do this?
How are your toes?
I'm not sitting here about it, am I? You are.
Oh,
That's the difference
you
between me and you. You're a baby.
Because you start
You
physical
are
fights?
such a baby.
Because
Grow
you
the up,
because you start
Johnny.
physical fights?
I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did, so I had to get the out of there.
Yes, you did. So you did the right thing, the big thing. You know what? You are admirable. By the way, I'm sorry that
Okay, I'm pausing it there. That's basically
He
the
says
clip
the
that I
word
heard.
admirable like it's an insult.
There is a little bit of context there when he says, "How are your toes?" By the way,
Yeah,
he's referring to basically what one of the other recurring themes of this is that whenever she starts shit with him, he leaves the area. He tries to get away because he doesn't want to reciprocate. And that's something that he mentions many, many times. Actually, she brings it up more than him because it actually pisses her off that he's trying to get out of the situation. And I guess in one instance, he basically went into the bathroom and wouldn't come out. And she tried to enter and he kept closing the door. And I guess at some point it hit her in the toes. And then she straight up kicked the door open, which smacked him in the face, and then proceeded to beat the crap out of him.
yeah. I saw particularly okay, first off, we've been covering this story for a while. I think that if you go back, you can look up our earlier news shows where we were following the Johnny Depp Amber Heard story. We were telling you guys, and this is from what I remember, that the accusations that Heard was leveling to Johnny Depp, especially since there was photographic evidence of her, like, you know, not cutting his finger off, but like cutting it pretty bad at the very least. I think almost cutting it off. As well as like other bruising that there was photo evidence of, and to us it at least showed that the violence between them was reciprocal. And then it like we saw later, I think, remember another story where there was supposedly photos of Heard bruised up, but then like only a short time after there was some other photographs and she had like no bruising at all. And like, so she looked fine. Like maybe there was, you know, some, either it was some fake shit going on or it wasn't really that bad. And so it cleared up really quickly or whatever. But I just want to put out there that we've been covering this pretty early on. And odds are, and I'm being as charitable to her as possible by saying this, odds are it is reciprocal domestic violence. But based on what I've heard on the tapes, and based on the evidence that we've had up until this point, it is far more likely that Heard she's the instigator of the violence, and she is probably the one that is more violent, and Depp's violence is more along the lines of self-defense. This is based on what I've seen. Now, a particularly woke take that I got to comment on briefly was put out by Liana K. And she was talking about this from the beginning. If you guys don't know, Liana Kersner was a Gamergate supporter, but also a feminist. And she's always had this sort of like, you know, radical feminist light takes on stuff. And she commented on this in a long thread that I read this morning as I was like sort of getting my stories together. And this is a sentiment that I see among a lot of feminists. So I'm bringing this up not because I want to pick on this woman, but because I want to use it as an example of how what they take away from this stuff. And what she basically took away from it was that Depp confessing that he pushed Heard a few times is somehow evidence that the violence was indeed reciprocal, when the truth is he was pushing her because he was trying to get away from her, not because he was looking to hurt her. Plus, there's a big difference between pushing someone and someone throwing pots and pans at you and essentially not decking you or punching you, but hitting you, right? And also, like, you know, cutting your finger like nearly off. And she also, you know, this feminist, this Liana K, she also said that I believe it was the problem with the Amber Heard thing is, and of course she does realize that Amber Heard was lying about being abused and about how one-sided it was at the very least. She said the problem with this, of course, is that what we should believe women when they make accusations.
No, and
that well, I know, but this is what she said. I know, but this is what she said. She said that because we should believe women, it hurts when it turns out to be a lie, and that most of the time when women make accusations, they are true, and that we shouldn't let what happened here dissuade us from that, you know. And look, I've seen other feminists say the same thing. They say, well, just because Amber Heard is abusing Johnny Depp does not mean that this is like a trend. This is an outlier. This is like, you know, some extreme case. And So first of all, I'm glad that this is out there. I think it's like, honestly, I think the reason why feminists are upset about this is it is doing tremendous damage to the Me Too movement, because Amber Heard was one of the big voices. And when you take that and you add on top of that Asia Argento, and you add on top of that the fact that, like, you know, the Weinstein cases are all like falling apart, because we'll get into that later, but it doesn't look good. And I think that there is a concerted effort to keep the hashtag alive, because there are people who religiously believe the stuff that they're touting. All right. So anyway, I give the floor to you. The real
mystery here is why it's taken 5 years for this recording to surface. Because somebody, it's not like it's been picked up 5 years later that something just happened to be a recording. Somebody's had this recording in their possession for 5 years.
One of the things that you bring up, there's a lot more to this recording, by the way. There's very close to, I think, at least 40 minutes of this whole thing. I did like a speed listen of it today, and oh boy, it gets so much worse. Let me just tell you that. It gets so much worse. But something you keep hearing Johnny say, like, he keeps saying, like, okay, that's great. So can I have the tapes? Do you have the tapes? I'd like to listen to the tapes. And so it seems like there's something that she has in her possession that he's trying to get, some sort of recording. And this, I mean, maybe this is part of it. I'm not 100% sure. But it sounds like he was working at trying to angle at getting something.
This recording,
it might be that she thought that if she recorded their interactions, that it would protect her, because a lot of women think that if a guy fights back, and this is feminists' fault, that all of their violence prior to him fighting back gets to be considered preemptive self-defense. That is a feminist label for female perpetrated domestic violence in a two-way violent relationship. That's used in feminist research, and they actually have this. They have. I don't have the piece of research anymore. I don't have the report anymore from it. I had it on a computer, and the computer got taken out by lightning. So it didn't hit our apartment. It hit a transformer in the neighborhood and made its way to our apartment, and it fried my hard drive and everything. But in any case, I do remember reading this, and what they did was they took the same kinds of details, fear of being disrespected, fear of being cheated on, and everything, and they divided them up. They described them slightly differently, and his was power and control, and hers was preemptive self-defense. It's power and control when a guy gets violent because he thinks his partner is cheating on him.
Yeah.
But it's preemptive self-defense when a woman feels disrespected because she thinks her partner's cheating on her, and she gets violent. And this particular type of sustained attack from a woman, I can tell you, because I've seen it up close and personal in more than one relationship. She will have engaged in basically death by 1,000 paper cuts prior to this, and it's all stuff like, you make a shopping list and you put something on it that she thinks is unhealthy or has said she doesn't like to have around the house, and she sees it and scratches it off so hard that you can see the pen went through the paper to the next couple of pages because she was so angry, but she never says anything to you about it, right? Or she finds out you have a phone call from a female and doesn't know who that female is, and maybe it's a coworker or colleague that has said, I need this from you for work. And that's the entire conversation. Or you got greeted by somebody at the mall and asked if you were going to go to your class reunion, or something along those lines, where there is absolutely nothing flirty or relationship oriented about it, and you won't hear about it for 2 or 3 days, and as soon as you do hear about it, it's you figure out that for 3 days she's been assuming that you're sleeping with this person, and now she's taking a jab at you for it, and it's been on her mind for 3 days, and every mean little thing she's done to you for 3 days has been a response to her internal monologue about that greeting. Like, I've seen women do this, and by the time she gets to the point where she's throwing pots and pans, or she grabs you and hits you, or she starts pushing and shoving and backs you into a corner until you push her away and then accuses you of hitting her, she has done 1,000 little things to provoke or to attack or to punish. And this kind of behavior, this is borderline shit. This is exactly what happens when you are in a relationship with someone who is wallowing in the symptoms of their borderline personality disorder, especially if they're a narcissist. And I've seen people fight that disorder and win, and not treat people like that. Learn to be more functional in their relationships, and learn to have the same respect for other people that they expect for themselves, and to not expect to be venerated and so on. But it's very hard work, and it's a lot easier to act like it's you against the entire world, and everybody's mean to you, and everything is a slight, and everybody has to do everything just the way you like it, or they're being bad, and you have to punish them. And more people seem to, especially women, more people seem to wallow in it than fight it. And what that guy has gone through is probably very similar to what I've seen. And I would expect that there are probably dozens of instances like this, that if they're taped and those tapes come out, you'll see this woman as a monster in the future. Like, this is bad. And she's going to be highly criticized for it by a lot of people.
Yeah.
Although, feminists will try to excuse it.
Yeah, they're going to do damage control all over this, because the fact is that Johnny...
They're not just doing it for the Me Too movement, though.
No, they're doing it for the narrative in the for the Duluth model and the long-term narrative as well. But I think there's like an immediate concern with the Me Too movement. Beyond that, though, yes, you're right. It's for the Duluth model. I mean, remember that Johnny Depp is a celebrity. So we're looking at a high-profile version of something that happens everywhere all the time. And like
two-thirds of domestic violence is two-way, half of domestic violence is two-way. 2/3 of domestic violence is no, it's right. 2/3 is two-way, and 2/3 is female initiated. 2/3 of the two-way and 2/3 of the one-way.
Yeah. So and again, she's admitting that she initiates violence. We already know that she does more damage than he does. And this is assuming that he does anything other than try to defend himself. Now, on the other hand, just to add to that, I hope that this works out for Johnny Depp. I hope that everyone's watching when it does. And I hope that this doesn't, the narrative continues to unravel as a result of this. But I would advise Johnny Depp and other men that are in a position like this in the future, you got to look out for red flags. I know that she's attractive and everything, but just, you need to, if you're going to find anybody, you need to find a virtuous woman. You need to be very careful. He shouldn't, I know that it's probably in his case maybe a bit complex, and I don't want to pretend to know what his situation is specifically, but this is 5 years, right? Or however long this was going on. And this could have been, or should have been addressed a long time ago. Like, he should have been, if he could have known that she was a unstable, abusive person, and he knows what an abusive relationship looks like, because we, for all we know, he may not know what that looks like. He should have tried to get out of there like day one. And I think that's one other things we can take away from this, is that men need to know when they're in relationships that are not good for them, and establish their boundaries and get the fuck out of there. So
yeah, the pretty little train wreck is the bad boy of male heterosexuality, right? Yes. If you're in a relationship and you recognize some of the stuff I was describing, especially like one of the biggest red flags is the every other woman you're talking to is a threat flag. Get out. That's a huge red flag. You are going to get hurt. It is not an avoidable result. If you are in a relationship with, and this is the same thing, if you're a female with a guy and you're in that same situation. Every other guy you talk to, you say hi to a guy and he's a threat, not if it bugs him if you flirt with other guys, that's normal. But if you just say hi to a coworker that you see at the grocery store, oh, hi, hi Bob, how you doing? How's this project going? Nice to see you. See you Monday, and he's like, are you sleeping with him? Get out.
Yeah.
That's a huge, huge red flag. And I would say the same thing about the every mistake, every little conflict is a personal slight. There can't be any misunderstandings. That's a huge red flag. If she fits the Karen meme of wanting to talk to the manager all the time, like not you get a piece of merchandise and it turns out to be shitty and it was sold as something that's not shitty and she takes it back, that's okay. But if she complains to the manager the first time the store is out of her favorite flavor of something or her favorite color of something for one day and has a fit, get out of that relationship. You're with somebody who is going to hurt you.
Yeah.
I was about to say it's sort of different for Johnny Depp than it is for other men, because he's a sort of famous actor. Like Amber didn't want him; she wanted Jack Sparrow, right? And she tried to goad him into being Jack Sparrow. But the point is, men in real life aren't like the ones in the movies.
Yeah.
But then I thought, well, that kind of does affect like normal men and their relationships as well, because men's erroneous representation as woman hating, wife beating bastards precedes them.
Okay, so a couple of other things, and then we're gonna move on because we got a lot of stories to get through. That was something else I was gonna mention, which is that there is a petition that I saw making the rounds, which was asking people to sign it, and then basically the goal of the petition was to essentially cancel Amber Heard. So make sure that she doesn't get any more work doing, I think she was in Aquaman. She played like Mira. I never saw the movie, so whatever. But she's an actress as well, right? And it was going around. If you guys want to sign it, you can look it up. There is a petition. Personally, I'm not in the business of canceling people. I would prefer we don't, because here's why. I would like to see, having seen how this case comes out with all this new evidence that's gone out there, I would like to see if Hollywood, of its own volition, continues to give her work. Personally, I'm indifferent to whether they do or not, because I know people have to work. I don't want to necessarily like make sure that no one ever gets, a livelihood ever again, just because they may be shitty human beings, because those shitty human beings still need to live lives and they need opportunities to redeem themselves as well. But I would like to see if Hollywood, with the way that it typically operates, continues to give Amber Heard work despite this. So I personally don't want to sign the petition, but you're welcome to look it up. I just don't think that's the way. Again, this goes back to the thing I said before. I don't want to behave in the way that my opponents do. I'm just not in the business of doing that. I'm not interested in that. You guys feel free. And the second thing is, I hope that also, on the flip side, in the wake of this, Depp continues to find work again, because this cost his career, as Mike J already pointed out, because of the accusations made against him. Now with the new evidence, I hope that he finds work, but if he doesn't, it's something that we should also be aware of and allow to happen organically so that we can talk about it. So that's just me. Do what you guys want to do, and I'll go ahead and read the super chats and we will move on to the next story. You want to say something?
There was something I wanted to point out, and it was important too. I'll have to get back to it because I got asked some questions.
Okay.
Real quick, I would like to just say, if you want to hear a longer version of that clip, like I said, sort of, I guess, closer to the raw 40 or 50 minutes of it, I would recommend the channel Incredibly Average, spelled just exactly how you think. Basically, he's had, I think, like a channel for the past year, and pretty much all he creates is the Johnny Depp Amber Heard related content, and it's his latest one. It's got about 1 million views, came out I think 4 days ago.
I just put the link in the description. So if you guys want it, just refresh the page and it'll be down there right underneath the show notes link. So you can check it out.
Okay, I do remember. The thing that bugs me about the cancel hashtag, why aren't they hashtagging get her into a perpetrator program? You know, get her help that'll stop her from doing this. So what about the next guy? Because their relationship is obviously going to end. What about the next guy? She's going to go on to some other guy, and some other guy is going to be like, oh, you poor thing, you know, what he did to you is so bad. I'm going to ignore all this stuff and then be the next guy to go through all this. And this happens over and over again with women who act like this. The gal that used to throw small appliances and light fixtures at my old DM, Dungeon Master from D&D, but she went on to another relationship with another guy and acted the same way toward him.
Yeah.
And we all heard about it because they all worked in the same place. And I'm sure that she continued to just do that throughout her relationships because she probably never encountered anybody who said, the reason that I am leaving is because you do this. And if she did, she probably decided he was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody ever told her you're abusive.
Well, yeah. I mean, we all know that now, so maybe she will. But at the end of the day, you know, if she like decides, if another man decides to sweep in and try to like save this girl, I mean, you know, the info's all out there. I don't know. All I can say is to avoid this woman. She's clearly toxic, but there you know, a sucker's born every minute. I don't know what to tell you. You know, we are not victims. We are only volunteers. If a man wants to mess around with Amber Heard because he thinks that his experience is going to be different somehow, well, then go ahead and roll the dice. But that's not what I recommend. I don't think canceling her is actually going to change that. In fact, if she got canceled and she wasn't able to find any work, that actually puts her in a more vulnerable position where another man is more likely to sweep in and try to save her. So,
yep.
That's, you know, again, I'm not for that, but if you guys are, I'm not going to stop you. Okay.
You can see why people are sort of for playing people at their own game.
Yeah.
To some degree, they think it's the only way they're going to listen, even though they're probably not going to listen. It's the horrible thing about Twitter reporting. Now that you know how it works, that they can report you for anything and they'll goad you into reporting them. It's like the only tactic that works back in advance is reporting them whenever they're very clearly harassing you. And then it's just a race to see who can report the other first. And it's very difficult to tell to what degree this is a good tactic and what degree it isn't. But on Twitter, the worst that can happen is you'll destroy Twitter. In terms of male and female relationships, there's a lot more at stake.
Yeah, for sure. So for more info, by the way, about red flags, look at Paul Elam's channel. He's got a lot of great videos on it. I think Tara Palmatier also has made content on this, and yeah, just look at that stuff.
Yeah, if you go to the it's a Shrink for Men, and let me just double check here, but I think it's the number 4. Let me.
Yeah, it's called Shrink for Men. I will. Well, I'll wait.
Yeah, it's the word shrink, and then the number 4, and then the word men is the name of the website. So shrinkformen.com. Just go to the index. Go to the index and start reading. Every guy that is still dating, every guy that's in heterosexual relationships, every guy that's in homosexual relationships should read this woman's site. It gives you a lot of insight into that particular type of abuser. There's other types of abusers who you're going to encounter, but among women, you're more likely to encounter abuse of this nature from someone who is borderline. Bipolar women can be pretty bad too, and there's not a lot of difference in the way that they will treat you, but there can be a lot of difference in the way that they explode. Like when they go off, they might go off with less warning, or they might go off like the warning signs are different.
Yep. Hannah, are you there?
I'm still here.
Oh, I didn't know you were done. I didn't know you were done.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the super chats. Let's see. Zaranx gives us $2 and says Amber Heard needs Muhammad, peace be upon him. Albert Data Retro gives us $2 Canadian and says Heard best not be playing Mira in Aquaman 2. Well, if she does, you know what to do. Don't watch the movie. Just don't give them money. If that's how you feel. That simple. Albatross Flight gives us $2 and says, surprised so many women defending Depp on Twitter. I'm not. I mean, I know why. The thing about Depp is another advantage that he has is that he is a heartthrob still. And even though he's turning 50 or something pretty soon, I think. And yeah, there are women who still love him. So of course, they're going to defend him. I mean, that's probably another big advantage he has. He doesn't look like Harvey Weinstein, but you know, we're going to defend everybody. So Tyler Preston gives us $5 and says, feminists have been using the mutual abuse myth in order to still claim that Johnny abused Amber. They don't want to admit that they are wrong. Well, no, they can't. It's just like Hannah said. It's the Duluth model. It's all about power and control. It's all about maintaining the narrative at all costs. Metalment is a new face. Thank you, Metalment. Gives us $10 Canadian and says, Amber Heard is a liar and an abuser. She needs to be punished for what she did. Hope justice prevails. It doesn't look good for her, but we'll see. The courts have surprised us before. Meredith Glassberg gives us $5 and says, Depp and Heard recorded their fights for therapeutic purposes. It was a way of working on their relationship. I would have fucking checked the fuck out, but okay. I understand that. I mean, I guess it's sort of admirable to try to work out your problems, but holy shit. Darth Sonic 413 gives us $9.99 and says, this is why, while still finding them vile, I have more respect for feminists who openly say they think that men are inherently evil over those that engage in double talk to try to look reasonable. Yeah, well, yeah, when it's obvious, like Big Red, I'm actually really grateful. I love Big Red. I love her to death, I swear to God. I hope she lives a long and healthy life and she continues to say exactly what feminists really mean without like censoring herself at all. Just like that Egyptian woman. Let her continue to put that woman in front of a camera as often as possible. I would much rather hear from feminists like her than the sort of like, you know, the double talk feminists that are trying to like ease their way, they poison you with honey, you know? So
like I've said before, like Big Red has done more to turn people away from feminism than I possibly ever could.
Yes.
Just by existing and being a feminist. And Pig Puncher sort of proved it. Because
yes,
like we were talking about in that video like the other day, he pretty much came out and said, I don't call myself a feminist because people think of Big Red.
Yep, that's right. He's concerned with the optics.
I think of Pig Puncher, to be honest.
He's gonna have to disown himself. And Darth Sonic 413. Oh, Ray Patson gave us $2 Australian, technically $1.99, and he just has here. I don't know what that means, but thank you, Ray Patson, for the super chat nonetheless. Darth Sonic 413 gives us $4.99 and says, but don't you know, Hannah, due to female biology, men are completely justified when they do it, but not when women do it /S. So sarcastic comment. Dragon Noodle Soup Gaming gives us $20. Thank you, Dragon Noodle Soup. I think you're the winner of the stream so far. Can anybody top him? $20. And he says, I have to go cook some fish. Night. Hey, I had salmon and eggs for lunch. Quite delicious. And then I got another super chat from Darth Sonic. You guys are really generous today. That's great. For $4.99. And he says, even if he wasn't a heartthrob, I wouldn't be that surprised. Women aren't a hive mind, and men don't have exclusive franchise over being good people. But the thing is, I think if Johnny Depp wasn't a heartthrob, he wouldn't have as many women defending him. Honestly, look up other people who have been accused of stuff, and find out if they're less sort of like in that category, like they're like not Johnny Depp, especially if they're like normal men or athletes even. Like there are athletes that women don't defend to that degree that get accused of stuff. Brian, super chat's not working for Ray. He wrote some lines below that here thing instead. Well, why can't you type? Well, I gotta find out what it is that he said. So can you guys like type it in really quick and I'll read it? Just tag me in the chat. Oh, Hannah, you keep your eye out for that. We'll move on to the next story, and then I'll read that super chat.
For it.
Yeah, just send me just copy paste it into the chat here in Discord, and then I will read that in the next round of super chats. So, Darth Sonic 413 says $1.99. That I agree with. Okay, so Mike J, we're gonna be talking about Harvey Weinstein. Speaking of Harvey Weinstein, kind of. I mean, yeah. And well, basically like a comment that was made that I thought was something we probably should comment on briefly. So, Mike?
So, if you're eating right now, you're gonna be eating soon. Maybe just skip the next 20 minutes of the show. If it's a little bit later, if you're watching unlive. Cause yeah, gonna be totally honest. Never thought I'd have to talk about this, but I'm talking about Harvey Weinstein's junk. So the Harvey Weinstein trial is back in the news after Weinstein accuser Jessica Mann made some odd claims concerning Weinstein's genitalia. The former actress claims that at first the sex was consensual and that when she first saw him naked, she was, quote, filled with compassion, absolute compassion, end quote. Mann proceeded to describe his genitals in great detail, stating, quote, the first time I saw him fully naked, I thought he was deformed and intersex. He has extreme scarring that I didn't know if maybe he was a burn victim. He does not have testicles, and it appears like he has a vagina, end quote. Mann claims Weinstein first raped her in a Midtown hotel room after a small public altercation. Quote, he got very mad at me for trying to speak up. I was trying to say to the people at the counter, we don't need a room. So he pulled me aside in the corner and told me not to embarrass him. End quote.
So the only thing I want to say about this, obviously this is just a statement. I'm not sure if she's just trying to insult him or if this is the truth, but let me just say this. If Weinstein has a vagina and he's been raping women, can we now say that envelopment is rape? Can we do that now? Can we make that a law? Can we do that? Because it looks like that, if that's true, and that's what happened, that means that women can now rape. Or is it only rape when men have vaginas and they force themselves on women? I need help. I need a little help understanding the terminology.
Is he in his own like little third area now?
Well,
we're in some uncharted waters here, Brian.
She did claim that he was intersex or something, or a eunuch or something.
So maybe he hasn't. Sorry, go on.
Go. You go ahead.
No, I've forgotten already. Go on.
Okay, sorry. But didn't she say that he had no testicles?
Yeah.
So like, and he had to use an injection to be able to rape her. So I'm sitting here thinking, this what did he hit the pause button on the woman, and she couldn't do anything. Well, he was doing all this stuff, she couldn't like leave.
What was that?
Yes, Weinstein is an X-Man.
Like, how the hell do you not run away from somebody who is like, I'm going to rape you and I need to inject myself first and blah, so I can get an erection to rape you, and I would be out of there so fast.
Oh, so if all this is true, then Weinstein certainly hasn't raped anyone, hasn't even had sex under unethical circumstances. All he's done is Louis C.K. these women.
Exactly. Yes.
But because
that's what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Because he's such a dumpster fire downstairs, they go, I can't even tell anyone about this lest I sound mean.
And on top of that, if this is true, then that means that he's not part of the gender binary, and therefore they all have privilege, and they shouldn't be doing this to him because he's he's part of the oppressed minority or something. But again, like, if it's true that what she's claiming, and she says, I thought he was a burn victim because of this extreme scarring, and that he doesn't have testicles, and it even looks like he has a vagina. Well, yeah, he couldn't be the serial rapist that you guys are all claiming he is, if that's true. Like, so did this testimony just like save his ass? Like, did all he had to do was come forward about his terribly mangled and deformed junk in order to save himself from, I guess, prison and whatever else comes with it? I don't know if these were like criminal accusations or civil ones or what. Did he just save his own job? And all he do is swallow his pride and say, yeah, my junk is fucked up and there's no way that I could have done this? Or is she just saying that to further humiliate him because this seems to be what Hollywood is doing these days? I don't know. So, anybody else got any thoughts on the Weinstein story? Or is my audio not work? Is something wrong with Discord? You guys there?
No, I'm typing back and forth with the guys in chat. They keep telling me they posted the thing that Ray said, but I can't see it anywhere.
I got it. I copy pasted it myself. It's in the Discord. I'm gonna read it in a second. I just want to make sure we're done with. I got it, guys. It's fine. I got it. I'm
dying to know what terms YouTube has shadow banned now.
No. The problem is that there's live chat and then there's top chat, and when you have the top chat on, which is what it's on by default, some comments don't show up. I don't know how YouTube determines which comments are considered top chat comments and live chat comments, but I got it. Thank you, Ray Patson.
Oh,
I got
good.
it. I'm going to read it. I'll read it in first thing when we do the super chats. So, yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. Again, we don't know how much truth there is to these claims that Jessica Mann are making. If it is true, then this kind of like opens up, no pun intended, sorry, Harvey Weinstein, this opens up a different conversation around what the implications about the case that he's dealing with. It opens up conversations around his, like, I guess the state of his genitalia. I always like that word, genitalia. It just rolls
I
off
can't
the
help
tongue.
this. What do you do when you've got somebody on pause waiting to be raped and there's a break? Do you like play some kind of bump music to make sure that the time is filled, like the Jeopardy music?
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Yeah. I hate to do that, but it's just, if she's telling the truth about that calls into question whether or not she was forced.
Yeah.
And like, she has to be able to come out and explain some level of coercion that took place that made it so she couldn't leave. If she's going to talk about how handicapped this guy was.
Yeah. Again, it could be humiliation. He might just have a chode and she just didn't see it. I don't know. So that's weird. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. It's hard to say. And we will look at the super chats, but I'd be really interested to see what happens with this case going forward. He may, it looks like he definitely doesn't have testicles, at least according to Jessica Mann. But again, we'll see. Strange though. Maybe it's part of some weird Hollywood ritual that we don't know about. Like some eyes wide shut / apocalypto shit is going on over there. I don't know. It's a fucked up place.
Is this the real reason you've lost one testicle, Brian? Because you were halfway there.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, so super chats. I will start with Ray Patson. So earlier he gave $2 and he said, in India, if a boyfriend had promised to marry his girlfriend before a breakup, girl's family can file a rape charge based on promise of marriage in honor. Yes, I know about that because we watched. I think her name. Wow, I'm losing the name now. It's not Jyoti Tiwari, but there's a woman who made a documentary that I watched in Australia in 2017 called Martyrs of Marriage, and it's on the tip of my tongue, but it's a really good film all about that stuff. Yeah, Deepika Bardwaj. That's right, Deepika Bardwaj. So yeah.
And they can file those cases usually end up not going through as rape cases because it's not legally considered rape to withdraw a promise of marriage, but it used to be or something. And so one of the things that has caused that, and parents filing rape charges against guys their daughters elope with against their advice, has led to India having somewhere between a 65 and 85% false rape allegation rate. Like they're that common in India. Between those two factors, that accounts for most of them.
Yeah. Ray Patson asks if I get the Domino's ad context now. Well, perhaps. I don't know. I mean, if they're just dating, does that mean that he's promised himself to her? Is it like, that's what I'm wondering about. I'm not sure. If that's the case, then yeah, maybe I do get it now. I just needed a little help understanding that. I'm not sure. Oops, sorry, I almost dropped my microphone there. I'm not sure if that is evidence of a promise to marry. It just seems like
a little added context there.
Yeah,
that's not existing.
Yeah, if the subcontext was a promise to marry, it's seen as a completely dastardly, horrible thing to do to a woman, because now she's like spoiled for the next guy. She's not a virgin anymore. She's no longer innocent and all that stuff. But it's not seen as destructive to a guy, even though emotionally he might go through the same thing.
Yeah. All right. Got a couple more super chats. We're gonna move on to the next story, but thank you for the comment, Ray. I'll take that in consideration. So let me see. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. The Field gives us $5 and says, pretty people tend to have unearned social capital with both sexes. Yeah, I think there is such a thing as attractiveness privilege. Exploding Pretty gives us $5 and says, I remember when Harvey appeared on the Mighty Boosh as Old Greg. I've never seen that show, but I've heard about it.
He's fucking around. The Old Greg is the character that's got a mangina.
Oh, okay. Albert Nader Retro gives us $2 Canadian and says, if the testes don't exist, you must dismiss. That's pretty good. And then Darth Sonic 413 says, Brian is missing his testicle because he nutted so hard the entire testicle was converted into the good stuff and pumped into her. Now he has one. All right, thank you for that very vivid image. I'm going to move on to the next story now.
Yeah, the truth is all men have the ability to reproduce asexually by just letting one of their testicles float off and become another person. But we love women so much that we choose to have women with you instead.
Yes,
choose to have children with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mike, shh. Don't let this get out there, man.
The Koyim, no, shut it down.
All right, so moving on to the next story. Thank you guys for your kind donations. All right. A new social media background check is sneaking onto the scene. Bruce Almighty, this is the Twitter user here, shared some of this 300-plus page report from Fama on Twitter detailing their problematic tweets. We're using there because Bruce Almighty's pronouns are there, but that's not what the story is about. Bruce Almighty, who, according to their Twitter bio, uses they, them pronouns, has tweets flagged for not just their own words, but liking and sharing others. Flagging reasons were as benign as mentioning alcohol and using foul language to bigotry and sexism. Bruce claims that they did not give their Twitter handle or permission to go through their social media background to their employer. The especially creepy part, this is a quote from Bruce, is that this didn't turn up anything at all relevant or incriminating. I keep personal info on my non-public accounts, but their shitty algorithm means that my reputation and character is flagged as questionable and sent to my boss, Bruce tweeted. Fama.io claims that they are, quote, the smartest way to screen toxic workplace behavior and helps to identify problematic behavior before it becomes an issue. They suggest their services for hiring current employees and to eliminate toxic behavior to enable businesses to grow and maintain a safe culture. On the website, Fama says that every industry can benefit, listing government and education, finance, entertainment, media, and tech, healthcare, as well as retail and hospitality. So here's a A misogyny example, what they found. So what Fama finds, our machine learning technology has flagged hundreds of thousands of instances of misogyny, bigotry, racism, violence on Twitter. Criminal behavior in publicly available online content. Their example of sexism or misogyny, I guess you could say, is, quote, "You can't buy a girl a drink and not have sex with her after. I don't care what you have to do. Get what you paid for," end quote. And then you get to check whether or not it's problematic behavior. So we are looking at a new service that employers are starting to use to go through your social media to see if you either have said, liked, or followed people who are problematic. And I thought this definitely has to be mentioned. It's absolutely jacked. And this is why I just want to say this one thing, and I'll let you guys speak to it. If you get a job, or if you have a job now and you haven't done this, do not share your social media with your company or your employees or your coworkers or your employers ever, because you can't trust what they might find and use to fire you. It's not worth it. So anyway, that's it for me. You guys can comment on this now if you like.
Well, the interesting thing here is it says Bruce claims they did not give their Twitter handle or permission to go through their social media background to the employer. So this employer used this to go through their social media without even asking them. Now my name is a little less common, but I've worked with people that have had two people with the same last name and very similar first names working with me. I've worked with people that had the same first and last name as people I went to school with. There's a famous person that actually has the same first and last name as one of the guys I went to elementary school with that was really, really shy. And I wondered, did that guy make good, And then I realized, no, that the famous person is like more than 10 years younger than us. So I mean, there are lots of opportunities for the employer to absolutely get the wrong social media and get somebody else's social media account. If your social media isn't even under your name, how do they know that it's yours, and so on? So there's more opportunity for mistakes than for actually getting any relevant information. But even if it was always right and always relevant and so on, when somebody goes through your whole history of social media, it's creepy. If it was your ex, or somebody who had been aggressive towards you in the past, it's considered stalking. But when your boss does it, it's okay.
I would set up a whole new set of social media accounts just for my employer and then offer them up front. Maybe
Keep
that
your shit separate.
Yeah. But again, according to this guy's testimony, they went behind his back and they just looked his shit up without asking him. So if you are able, maybe just offer it up front. So, or don't do it like in an obvious way because they'll probably still look it up. But, be like, do you need my email and my Twitter? Like offer it like as a, I don't know, like as a upfront thing. You can't trust that I guess that that they won't do this on you. I don't know. This is just really messed up. I'm having a hard time responding to this.
Yeah, one thing that is a consideration, like when the economy is great and it's more of a job seekers market than an employer's market. It would behoove workers to, when employees say, well, you got to give us your social media to work here, and they have other options, say, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I was really hoping to trust this company, but now I can't. So nice knowing you, and I'm going to go on to a different employer. And go find go pick a different option. And if enough employers hear that and they have a tough enough time finding workers, then they'll stop doing that. It's the same thing as it. When they have to they raise pay in a market where it's tough to find people to do the job. They'll raise your pay to get you to come work for them instead of going to work for somebody else. They'll treat you better to get you to come work for them instead of going to work for someone else. So, work towards support a good economy, support an economy where employers are going to have to compete for workers and not the other way around so much, and then be picky about who you accept a job from.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah.
I remember the last time I was seriously applying for a place, and they found it so unbelievably odd that I didn't have a Facebook or a Twitter.
They were asking about that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Hmm.
I'm like, I got an email address. I got my nice, safe, real name email address I can give you.
Mm-hmm.
But if I need a Facebook to apply for this job, then I guess I don't qualify. I'm sorry.
That's fucking weird, but I could see it. Needing a Facebook to get a job. Yeah. So this
it's not so much I needed one, but they just, like I said, they found it weird that I didn't have one.
Because they thought everybody should have one, and they may have even been suspicious because they probably assume everyone has one. If you don't, then maybe you're hiding something. So maybe you actually do. When you're over there posting them Pepes, you're one of them Hitlers that they keep hearing about. So yeah, I don't know. Like, let us know what you guys think about this story in the comments. What do you think about this? I think this is the only company that I know of that does this, but I bet this is going to become a trend. Until, as Hannah says, the market shifts. I mean, small businesses probably won't do this kind of stuff. So, smaller businesses, maybe even small companies, they have like a few locations, or they work kind of, in like a part of the country. It's not that bad, but if you're working for a major corporation, they may have stuff like this. So, all right.
My employer does this. They'll think I'm obsessive compulsive. They're going to be going through this. She said accountability 4,725 times in January.
Yeah. All right, so super chats, and then we're going to move on. Darth Sonic 413 again gives us $4.99. Thank you, sir, and says, I still need to get around to nuking my online presence. Transfer what I need to new, better protected accounts. I've been lazy on this front. Yeah, maybe do that. I would consider it because, I don't know, it looks like they're going to be trying to peek into your life. So,
I found out in 2011 I still had a MySpace.
Oh, do you?
And I guess I did past tense.
Okay.
I guess I finally sent them enough information like, hey, this was the address I was at when I made it. This is how old I was. This is what my first name was. Mm-hmm. I don't have access to any of this shit now, but can you make this go bye-bye for me? And they did.
Did you have one of those annoying MySpace pages that when you go to it, it starts playing really loud music and you can't find the fucking player?
Oh, no.
Shut it up.
God, I'm kind of casualty you take me for, Brian.
I don't know. I mean, it was MySpace. Like, you could have been an emo kid back in the day that, wanted to put some Black Parade on so that when people went to your, MySpace page, it would start blaring. Or techno music, the dubstep, like the kids learn.
Even if I wasn't going to be that guy about
it. There you go.
All right.
Now, if you run into an old account like that on an old social media site that you thought was gone and it's still there, and you don't have access to it, a lot of them, if you flag it as a fake account, they will ask the account for ID. And if the account doesn't give them ID because you don't have access to it anymore, they'll delete it.
Yeah.
Or most of them have something in place where if you just write them a very polite email and explain the situation, usually they have like a form all set out for it, and you don't even have to have half the information. And they'll just look at it and be like, well, no one's posted to this for God knows how long, and this guy seems like the person who owns it. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and off this just to be sure.
You know what I will say? I'm going to defend MySpace really quick. They weren't nearly as Orwellian as Facebook is. And,
of course not.
And of course, so much respect to Tom. I think that was the guy, Tom. Everybody's friend on MySpace.
Yeah, your first friend on MySpace.
Yeah. Much respect to Tom because he didn't do that.
He never spied on your personal details. He never preached left-wing ideology at you. He just made his money and then he fucked off.
Yeah.
Good on you, Tom.
It's like a niche site now.
Well, they try to transition it all to like music now.
Yeah, and a lot of bands are on MySpace, and you go and they have their music and they have their stuff, and you don't really see a lot of anything else on there. I went and looked. I think I still have a MySpace too. I had some of my photography on it, but a lot of the pictures are gone. So I don't know if they got dumped or what. But it's mostly bands and putting their stuff out there.
All right, so I'm gonna read this super chat, but let us know what you guys think about the story in the comments. Tatsumi Tui gives us $4.99 and says HBR should chat with Liana K on Johnny Depp accusations. Also off topic, missed yesterday's stream. Why not have Karen explain MRM to Crowder? I will answer both of those briefly. Liana K refuses to come on our show because Karen called her a cunt. And
no, it's not. It's more than that.
It's more than that, but I know that she said
a history.
Okay. And then I'll explain the other part of it too. Missed yesterday's stream. Want to have Karen explain the MRM. You've seen the men's rights movement to Crowder. She's been on Steven Crowder's show a few times. He knows about it. But here's the thing. Steven Crowder will not get on board, I think, completely with the MRM because he makes this mistake of, well, first of all, he has a very conservative view on what a man should be. And I think that he knows that the MRM to some extent is bucking that trend. And I think he's against that, but he likes the work that we do in terms of like fighting against feminism. And I think that some of the men's issues, such as fathers' rights and those kinds of family courts, etc., he is in support of, but he does occasionally criticize us and strawmans us. But I'd like him to have Karen on, but she hasn't been on his show in quite a while. So I don't know why that is. But yeah, he's super conservative, mainstream, normie dude on the gender front. He's pretty weak, although, and I will give him credit for this, not really give him credit, give us credit for this. He's using a lot of men's rights arguments. And I'm okay with whoever, I don't care where you are politically, if you're using men's rights arguments to fight against the mainstream narrative, then you know what, you're okay in my book at least. And we'll deal with the shit that you got wrong on our own. So
you don't have to call
we're the third rail.
You don't have to call yourself an MRA. In fact, I understand why you wouldn't, because the YouTube algorithm would have got you 5 years ago as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That might be the only difference.
We're the third rail. They'll say everything we say. They'll even listen to us and repeat everything we say, but they will not align themselves with us, associate themselves with us, or identify with us because we said it first, and that makes us the bad guys in society. So for saying it first, even though the stuff that we say needs to be said, for saying it first when people weren't ready to listen to it, and people weren't ready to deal with the information, that makes us the bad guys. So we end up being the the ugly stepkid or whatever of politics. We're the third rail. They can't touch us, and that's why these guys won't have Karen on their show. Not any other reason, honestly. And the other thing I wanted to point out with Liana Kersner is nobody did anything bad to her. Liana came out before there was any information out there, any real solid information out there about our experience at Calgary Expo.
Yep.
And said a bunch of shit about Allison. She accused Allison of being abusive and disruptive and said we created a scene without being there, without knowing anything that happened. And then when the evidence came out and proved her wrong and we asked her to comment on it, she blocked us. And then she said it was because Karen called her a cunt. I don't know if Karen actually ever did call her a cunt. But if she blocked us, it wasn't because Karen called her a cunt. It was because the evidence proved her wrong. So as far as at least my show, HBR Talk, she is not welcome to come on unless she is willing to watch the entirety of the Find the Harassment video and comment on it and explain her position in detail without deferring to the court. And she has to do that first before she gets to discuss anything else with us. And that's not going to happen. I don't expect her to. I don't think she has the guts to do it. I don't think she has the brains to do it. I lost any chance of developing respect for her of any kind when she did that and used that lame excuse. And as far as I'm concerned, she can go fuck herself. And that's like, I'm sorry if that pisses off people who are fans of hers, but I don't see any difference between Liana Kersner and any other group of feminists. I don't even consider her a nice feminist. She's just a feminist that is very good at persuading people. That's it. That's all I had to say.
Is anyone else still thinking?
Oh yeah, I'm here. Yeah, okay. She's semi-charismatic. She has the ability to come across as reasonable, but you really, really need to look at what is being asserted here. And it goes back to what I was saying before. There's a big difference between somebody like Big Red or that Egyptian woman whose name I always forget, that are being extremely loud and, just like using the foulest language they can. They're yelling, they're pulling fire alarms, they're being, just so gregarious. And yeah, sure, that's obvious. Everybody can see it. They know this person is disturbed. They're shouting "fuck you" a million times at the top of their lungs with crazy red hair and horn-rimmed glasses. Guess which one I'm talking about? It's hard to know. And but there's a difference between that and someone who's saying, "Look, guys, I care about you. I care about, I'm listening to what you have to say. I acknowledge that men have problems. I acknowledge that there are extremes in feminism, but I don't think those are real feminists, and they're just on the fringes and all. But look, I have the truth here. I know the reality. I know how this actually should work. And because I'm being really, tempered with my tone, and I'm not cursing at people, and I'm being funny. I throw jokes around. I'm sex positive. Look at my tits. That means I'm a better feminist than Mona or Big Red Chanty. And I think that if you got to look past all that, don't let that distract you and look at what actually being said. And the fact that, again, she made assumptions about our situation at the Calgary Expo before the truth was out. She jumped on it right away. She had extremely troubling things to say about gamers and gamer culture, despite the fact that she supposedly stands up for them. It's just, there's a laundry list. And then there's the Johnny Depp thing. Just reading her comments on that, I'm like, you are a bitch. You don't even care about Johnny Depp's situation. You don't care about what Amber Heard has done. You just don't like that what Amber Heard has done hurts your view and the perception of other people on these domestic violence as a concept. It hurts the narrative. That's why you're upset. You're not actually upset that what you should be coming to the conclusion of is that this is happening to men all over the world, and nobody cares. And the only reason we're even looking at this case is because it's happening to Johnny fucking Depp. And the only reason why there are even as many women defending him as there are is because it's Johnny fucking Depp. And just like that doesn't sink in at all. It's just, well, okay, this is bad. Amber Heard's kind of a piece of shit, but then like Depp is kind of too. And also this shouldn't, it hurts me because she's hurting the other women that are making accusations, of which a number of them could be lying. And we don't know how many, but we should care about them. That is a very, very insidious kind of feminism. So that's why you should be careful of that.
She had a 15-minute rant very repetitive rant about the men's rights movement. And most of her rant about the men's rights movement was, men's rights issues are legitimate, but men's rights activists are bad. And then she went on to try to delegitimize every men's rights issue, denied all kinds of things that are actually documented facts. And it took, I think I spent a grand total of an hour debunking everything she said on my channel. And the videos are a response to Liana K, something along those lines. And at that time, people were false flagging response videos that contained any footage from the original video.
Mm-hmm.
So I just repeated everything she said, starting with "you said," and then I repeated the line verbatim, and then I responded to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll admit I made fun of her for a lot of the dumb shit she said, but that was deserved. And it did. It was basically a gish gallop. She took 15 minutes and just flooded out a bunch of shit. And it's worth watching if you think she's great. Because really she is opposed to equal treatment of the sexes, and she uses trying to be personable and trying to be persuasive and saying a few nice things or nice sounding things here and there as a way of gatekeeping gender issues discussion to prevent people from turning it into a discussion on not just equal rights and privileges, but also equal accountability, obligation, and restriction.
Yeah.
And she's exactly like every other college feminist. She's just more diplomatic about it. She's better at marketing it.
There was another feminist that was doing something like this too. I'm trying to remember her name. It was from way back. This is gonna be a blast from the past. Was it Christy something? Oh God, what was her name? She actually worked with Skeptor, and she was friends with Russian Deadpool and the two women. And when one of them passed away,
Christy Winters?
No, not Christy Winters. It might even not be a Christy. It might not be that. It might be something else. I can't remember her name, but she was also a feminist that supposedly cared about men's issues, but discredited MRAs whenever possible. And she basically, even when she had no other choice, like when it was like the men's rights talking points, the arguments that we were making could not be debunked, like there was just she just didn't have the evidence, she didn't have that on her side. She then tried to sort of repackage everything as egalitarianism, and essentially what she tried to do was fit her feminist logic into men's rights logic to basically make like a combination. That whole, well, we should be working together and we'll just use our ideology and your ideology and make a new ideology that's the best of both worlds, which of course is impossible.
The problem is we don't have an ideology.
We don't have an ideology. That's one. And the other thing is that the fact is that most of the men's rights issues are completely incompatible because they require that the feminist narrative collapse in order for us to even discuss it. And when I say the feminist narrative, for those of you guys who don't know, I'm not talking about women's issues. I'm talking about the feminist narrative. It's different. There are women's issues, and I think those will fit very nicely in with men's issues, because I think that the issues that both sexes have are actually intertwined, and in a lot of ways they kind of feed into each other. So we can talk about it that way, but not with the feminist lens. Impossible to do. You can't. I can't remember her name though. I'm sure that somebody who's been watching for a long time will be able to tell me. But
so what she called that video that I was talking about, she called it Rant to Anti-Feminists. If you want to see what I had to say about it, there are 4 videos.
Yeah.
Parts 1 through 4. The title of them is An Anti-Feminist Response to Liana K's Rant to Anti-Feminists, Part 1, and Part 2, and Part 3, Part 4. And those videos, a lot of what she was talking about the men's rights movement. And she addressed a lot about men's rights issues and tried to delegitimize a lot of men's rights activism in that video. and just lumped in men's rights activists with anti-feminists, and was very lectury and condescending, and I was very lectury and condescending right back. So I do, if you really, really are determined to try to mix Liana K's activism with your men's rights activism, I recommend watching those first.
Yeah. All right, so now I'm going to read the super chats, and we will move on to the final story. So Darth Sonic 413 gives us $1.99 and says, "Who's Liana K?" I think that we explained that, so I don't want to talk about her anymore.
Yeah, no uncertain terms.
Yeah, in no uncertain terms. I don't really want to talk about her anymore. I just wanted to use her exactly as an example of the many feminist responses, and she's pretty popular on Twitter. There was a lot of people agreeing with her 100%, and they weren't just women; they were men too. So I thought this was important to respond to, because it is an argument being put out that is not unusual, that we've heard many times before, and we need to put it in, to address that, because it will be something that you will see come up. So Albert Nader Retro gives us $5 Canadian and says, "Karen needs to go on the Joe Rogan Experience and mention my North Country video while she's there. Shill, shill, shill." Well, I don't know if Joe Rogan is ready for men's rights issues. I mean, it's just not his thing. So it's okay, maybe one day, but I don't think he's ready. Darth Sonic 413 gives us $1.99 and says, "How are you defining ideologies?" Well, I mean, like,
an ideology has, rhetoric and dogma and beliefs and stuff like that. It's not just asking for a very specific thing. And like the men's rights movement has a very specific thing. If we're going to engage in human rights activism, that means all humans, not this group of humans or that group of humans, just all humans. That's our whole underlying thing. We don't have a oppression conspiracy theory. We don't have a filter through which everything has to be looked at. How are men victims of this? We don't have a whole set of historical. Oh gosh, I can't think of the word I want to use. But basically, a set of historical standards. It's not the right thing. That's not the way I want to describe it. But a belief that all of the standards in society, all of the norms in society that placed restrictions and obligations on everybody are only bad when they happen to one sex, right? We don't have a good guy and a bad guy. We simply have, all right, if this is the way things are going to be, it should be this way, with an equal treatment of everybody, and not this group of people is special and deserves special treatment. Yeah. Then an ideology is more of a set of beliefs that you have to hold on to, that you have to filter all those things through those beliefs. So feminism doesn't just look at fairness and equality. They look at fairness and equality through a filter of who is the big victim here and who deserves the most fair treatment. And who can be discriminated against on the basis of, historical guilt and so on. So that's the difference. Okay.
Bane666 basically in the chat. So what's up, Bane? He says her name was Chrisiosity. That's who it was. It's Chrisiosity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you remember her now.
Yeah, she used to comment a lot on my stuff. She was very irate that I would, and every time she got irate with me, it was anytime that I basically treated women as equally accountable for their choices as men are. Say if we're going to have a social obligation, that social obligation as far as the expectations for how you behave towards other people, that should go both ways. And if we're going to have a restriction on your behavior related to that, that should go both ways. If our society is going to have a penalty for that restriction, that should go both ways. If it's bad no matter who does it. And if it's a right, it's a right no matter who's asking for it.
Or who expects it. Okay, right. So I think that's it. We're going to move on to the next story. Thank you guys for the super chats. We got one left. So this is a small one. I thought it was just kind of funny. I wouldn't take it too seriously. But I just thought it was kind of a silly little thing. All right. So, I got the write up. Shit, where did I write this down? I apologize. I need to find it. So there was this Ecuadorian president. And shit, I gotta find it. I apologize, guys. Hold on. Give me a second here. There was this Ecuadorian president that said something. The reason why I'm having trouble finding this one is because I wrote it up at the last minute, and so it's not in my notes. But I do have a copy. I just needed to grab it really quick. So on Friday, this past Friday that just passed, January 31st, Ecuadorian President Lenin Moreno, yes, his first name is Lenin, made some controversial statements at a public conference at Guayaquil, which is actually how you pronounce it, because yes, Ecuador has cancel culture too, because people came after him for this. President Moreno has said that men are permanently subjected to the danger of being accused of harassment. It's the thing he had to apologize for. Quote, women often report harassment. It is true, and it is good that they do so. He went on before claiming that women often, quote, get angry with ugly people in harassment cases. That is to say, it is harassment when it comes from an ugly person, he said. But if the person is good looking, they usually don't think that it's harassment. End quote. After the footage of the speech was shared online, the president's comments attracted widespread criticism. One Twitter user wrote, quote, according to Lenin Moreno, women only report harassment when the perpetrator is ugly. Now it makes sense why they cut $876,000 for the prevention of gender violence. For this lot, our lives are worthless, end quote. Another added, quote, we are governed by a misogynist, end quote. He has since issued a non-apology apology, stating the following, quote, I did not intend to minimize an issue as serious as violence or abuse. Adding, I apologize if it was understood in that way. I reject violence against women in all of its forms, end quote. I just thought it was funny because he was saying something that, I don't know, like it's really offensive, but I mean, I could see somebody saying that, like, you know, it's people usually find it harassment when it's from someone who's unattractive. I know that there is such a thing as real harassment, but I thought that was too funny to pass up that he would say that. Of course, he did issue a non-apology afterwards, but I don't think he should have done that. But that's just me. Oh, and the best part, here's the thing that's interesting, because the article that I got this from was making the claim that he is some kind of like right-wing, you know, guy, kind of like a Bolsonaro figure, but it's not true. He's actually like a democratic socialist, so
that is funny. He's right to a degree, though.
Yeah.
There's two types. There's women who report harassment when someone that they don't want to interact with won't stop, you know, and the interactions are intrusive on a personal level and not just, you know, walking past. Like there's a big difference between when your house is on the other side from your workplace of a person's house and they call the cops because you're walking past their house every day, versus when you continually approach someone, hey, you have to talk to me. Hey, you know, I asked you out. Were you gonna go out and that kind of thing, or even just, you know, are you sure you don't want to sell that bicycle? I want to buy your bicycle. Let me buy your bicycle. You know, it doesn't even have to be sexual. Those types of things actually can be harassment. My family has suffered harassment under odd circumstances. There was a small town controversy where my parents live, where I grew up, and there was a huge split in the city between two factions of people, supporters of the guy that should have been police chief by all rights, and supporters of the guy that became police chief because the guy that should have been police chief was falsely accused and fired. And there was a whole big hearing and everything. During the time that was going on, my mother was on city council and she was one of the investigators. And as a means of attempted intimidation, the guy that shouldn't have been police chief actually had his officers sit a block away from our house and watch to ticket our customers for our photography business if they parked too close to the corner. That's harassment, right? That's actually police. I've been in a home that was subject to police harassment. But there's a lot of women who will report a guy for harassment or who will accuse a guy of harassment the first time he says hi, or for being inarticulate when he gives her a compliment, or for being unattractive and having the audacity to speak to her. Go to a bar, hang out with her friends, turn around, and the guy who offers to buy her a drink looks like Quasimodo, and all of a sudden he's harassing her, right? Yeah. And if he looked more like Han Solo, he's not harassing her. He's just this nice guy offering to buy her a drink, and that's a double standard. So he's not wrong for saying that. It's not the only circumstance under which harassment happens. And the other way around, those same women will turn around and nag the shit out of a guy, especially like you reject one of those girls, she hits on you and you reject her. Holy shit. Mm-hmm. The butt hurt and the anger and the accusations and the temper tantrums. And there are women who have glassed men for turning them down, but they don't think of it the same way. They don't think of it as harassment. I've gone to Renaissance fairs with a friend who likes to wear a kilt, and every time we go, there's somebody who wants to manually check whether he's a real Scotsman, which is funny because he's not. But in any case, whether he's wearing it proper, and doesn't think that it's inappropriate to approach a guy she doesn't know and ask if she can feel his dick in public. And it's not, can you imagine walking up to a chick? Can I check and see if you're wearing underwear?
Well, when you're rich, they let you do it.
Yeah. So, seriously, and it's not all women. It's not all men. There are lots of people who have boundary issues. It's just treated very differently when women have boundary issues. And one of the boundary issues that the women are allowed to have is, my boundaries you should understand my boundaries without me telling you, especially if you're ugly.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny that he was saying that. It's sort of like when someone especially because they're like this enormous public figure, they say something that a lot of people are thinking, I think that he is reasonable enough to know that this is not every case. I think most people don't believe it's every case, but the problem with harassment as a concept ultimately is that it is, to a degree, very subjective. There is such a thing as being harassed. The problem is that it's used very liberally. And so it can feel like, and unfortunately it to a degree, it delegitimizes actual harassment because, and of course it genders it too. So when men are harassed, they don't cry. First off, men are more tolerant, so they don't tend to call it harassment. They don't tend to cry harassment. But also people don't consider when men are harassed to be harassment. So if a man is more sensitive to harassment and complains about harassment, people are less likely to actually think of it that way, and he kind of has to deal with it. When if a woman feels harassed, then people are more likely to take it seriously. And I don't think that's a conspiracy. I think that you could see that is, and look, and I don't even think that that's necessarily wrong. I think it's wrong because we are talking about enforcing laws and policy and stuff. But I don't think it's necessarily wrong that men and women's level of comfort is different, because men and women are different. It's just that we need to find a way to treat this more objectively. And that means that in the cases where a woman only feels harassed because the man is unattractive versus when he is, we kind of have to, take those assertions with a grain of salt, maybe. And I'm not talking about in the law or politics. I think it's more like socially or, culturally. So,
well, yeah, you can't just deal with law and politics because a woman's tears can get a guy's ass kicked.
Yeah, I'm saying it's not necessary. So but it is we are talking about human nature, and it's a tricky thing. So,
the guy is basically just saying attractiveness privilege is a thing.
Yeah, ultimately.
While everyone everywhere is saying white privilege is a thing, male privilege is a thing, and there's arguments raging about that. This guy comes along and says attractiveness privilege is a thing. And a bunch of feminists go, no, it isn't.
You white male
that have the body positivity movement that want to act like you're a bigot if you won't date fat chicks.
Yeah.
But you're also bad if you fetishize them.
Well, this guy should check his male privilege, that there is no such thing as attractiveness privilege.
You know what the other significant thing about this article is? Here they mentioned now it makes sense that they cut $876,000 for the prevention of gender violence. For this lot, our lives are worthless.
Yeah.
$876,000. What are they going around house to house and telling men in person, don't hit women? That's bad, because obviously they're calling it gender violence, which means they think it only happens to women. Partner violence, on the other hand, happens to both sexes, doesn't it? But obviously this is about money, and I'm all for spending money on shelters. I'm all for spending money on helping victims of intimate partner violence recover, which can include, learning to vet the next partner for character, getting back into the workforce, overcoming. There's usually some sort of post-traumatic response, whether it's PTSD or just anxiety and depression or whatever. Those are worthy reasons to donate money to a cause like this. I don't necessarily think that it's great that tax money is being spent on this stuff. I think public fundraising could support this kind of thing just as well and possibly better. And the fact that the government's involved is probably a bad thing because it's supporting all the wrong things. But in any case, I don't think poster campaigns help, especially not when they act like it's one-sided. And I think people just get mad when they see something that's preaching to them about something that they didn't do. And if they are doing it, they're not going to look at themselves and say, well, I'm wrong for this because a poster says so, right? I don't think that kind of funding for those types of preventative measures that feminists have engaged in, that's not really effective. And since domestic violence and sexual violence are both cyclical to a huge degree, it's more important to work within the actual phenomenon with people who have been victims, with the children of families that have a pattern of domestic violence in them and stuff like that, to break that pattern. And that would significantly reduce domestic violence. That would significantly reduce sexual violence. And this idea that we need to fund a bunch of infomercials and poster campaigns and preachy this and preachy that at people, it's ridiculous. And all it does is line the pockets of gender feminists who are trying to convince people that men are bad, women are victims, and they just need more and more money to fix that problem without ever addressing it.
Yeah, I think there is definitely a political angle here. And considering, again, I think considering this is a socialist country, there's probably a lot of fighting over where the money should go. So, I mean, obviously they have the ability to do that, and I think they're just using this because this was a private event that he was speaking at. It was actually to investors or something, and this video clip or audio clip or whatever what he said, it leaked out, and that's where all of the posturing came and all the controversy and all that, and he had to come out and apologize. I think they're trying to get more money pushed into their pet project, and they're going to use this to get leverage. And he may cave to that, but. All right, so let me read the last super chats. We're going to go to the after show because we've gone a little over time today. So Darth Sonic just gave us a super chat for $4.99, and he says feminists believe that attractive women's life is 24/7 gang blank scenario. So of course, attractiveness privilege doesn't exist. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. We're going to go into the after show. Is there anything else that you guys, that my co-hosts here want to say that we didn't get a chance to say during the show, maybe, or address? No? All right. So we're going to go ahead and go into the after show.
Yeah, you got to give me time to unmute.
Okay.
I'm seeing in the chat just a bit of a point that somebody thinks the domestic violence is genetic. And I want to point out, Aaron Pitsey talked about this, and it's not necessarily about it being genetic, but children raised in violent households where the violence exists throughout their entire lives, they're getting dosed with the mother's chemicals. Basically, you create brain chemicals anytime you go through an experience, and they're getting dosed with those. They're hearing the violence in the womb, and they're having those experiences throughout their entire lives. That's not nature, that's nurture. And the reason that it's cyclical isn't because it's in their DNA. The reason that it's cyclical is because those chemical changes start taking place. Their brains are affected by chemicals that they experience in the womb. And I really do think she's right about that. It's something that's understudied and very, very much underemphasized, but it is known that children who are born through other traumatic situations are affected, and it's known that children who are born to mothers who have basically experienced mental health conditions that lead to like anxiety and depression and anger issues and stuff like that, they have brain changes as well. So this is not necessarily in their DNA. It's not genetic, but it is from before birth in those situations, and it can be. You can help somebody learn to overcome that as they're growing up. And the younger you are, the more plasticity your mind has, and the better able you are to overcome something like that. But it's not inevitable. It's not genetic.
Yeah. There's another researcher named Gabor Mate. I hope I'm not butchering his name, but he has done studies on addiction, and his studies conclude the same. People who have problems with addiction, drugs, alcohol. He says that the idea that a drug is addictive or that alcohol is addictive is actually far overshadowed by whether or not the person is dealing with abuse or has a history of abuse or trauma from a very young age. And his findings show that, like, for example, in Vietnam, I know this is going way over, but in Vietnam, one of the ways that men were treated with for pain, with the injuries and stuff, was with, I believe it was heroin. It was just like really strong shit that was just used like to, keep them moving. And what was interesting about that is these men that all received, of the men that received heroin as a means for them to deal with their pain, only 5% of them, upon returning home, actually became addicts. And that's just one of the many studies that he did, or that he was examining, that finds that it's actually, if your childhood is filled with trauma, then you're more likely to have struggles with addiction. And they don't necessarily have to be physical. They could be emotional, they could be abandonment, they could be a number of things. So, and of course, the addiction doesn't have to be with drugs. A lot of people just have addictive personalities, and that may be a product of that. So whether you're addicted to eating, or addicted to masturbation, or addicted to drinking alcohol, or addicted to, sex or whatever. So anyway, I think that there might be a connection with all these things too, but yeah, Gabor Mate, that's right. That's the guy. But anyway, there may be a connection with that. I just thought it was interesting. Maybe you guys could look that up, but definitely look up Aaron Pitsey's stuff, because I think she's really onto something there. So, but
these mice are getting really addicted to things. What's up with that? Those mice that you keep in a cage. Yeah, those mice.
Yes, yeah, those. Yes, exactly.
That connection you're not making. Yeah.
So anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, please hit that like button if you didn't already do it, and I hope that you did. If you guys could also subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. I did see that we got one new subscriber today. Thank you so much to whoever that was. I'm sorry I forgot the name. And leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about any and or all of the stories that we discussed today. I want to make sure I didn't miss another super chat, but no, I didn't. Okay, I'm just making sure. So we're going to go to the after show now. If you want to be a part of that, give us $5 a month. That'll get you into the Discord and it'll allow you to watch the after show content. Today's after show topic is this opinion piece written by one Ara, and I'm not going to read that. It's like Iloa Bugichukuwu. And she, I think it's a she, because this is a womanist website called Madame Noir. She writes an article entitled, "If you want to protect your daughters, raise better sons." So we're going to go ahead and go into the after show to see what she has to say about that. I noticed that there's a lot of content talking about sons being better. I think we did an after show on that last week or the week before. So if you guys want to be a part of that, please go to feedthebadger.com and start a monthly subscription. I hope to see you in the Discord. With that said, I have been Brian. I was here with Hannah, Mike, and Dr. Rannerakam. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on this week's HBR News Show, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory.